Today on the show, Latina Programmata Computatoris Est, a QB meets an OP, a sanctuary for the unborn in Texas. Newman predicts the future of conscience, our picks of the week, and so much more. The Catholic Underground starts right now. I almost got through that whole thing without, I almost didn't. The Latin was fine. It's time for the Catholic Underground. We are the podcast that tries to cut through the noise of the digital continent and bring you the topics that matter. It's episode number 405. I am Father Chris Decker. Joining me this week, they're all here. Kathleen Lee, who's the executive director of the Women's New Life Clinic in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Kathleen, glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
Tyler did well.
Okay,
he did very well.
Good.
But Kathleen is unrepeatable.
I'm like a bad rash. You can't get rid of me.
Yikes.
No.
I don't know how to segue out of that, so I'll just say Olivia Gulino is here, and she is a student of life. She's our resident Italian food critic. Hey, Olivia.
Hello, it's me.
It's you.
It's a
Although Kathleen made the Italian food today. She made kind of
It's
a
true.
quasi-caprese.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
I'm not making fun of you. It was good.
No, it was really good. Why?
Let's go up to this satellite, shall we? To the Jeff Star 1
I'll
near
send
Earth
Jeff to the
orbit satellite.
You didn't send any up.
and to Jeff Blackwell. Jeff's our tech director. Hey, Jeff.
Good evening.
Good evening. Also, Ed is working the video on the satellite up there. So we have a few new video things happening if you're watching us on the radio or the podcast. And so pay attention. As I said before the show, if it all goes horribly wrong, you're going to have a laugh. Well, all right. So I have been trying desperately to kind of up my game with learning Latin.
Ooh.
Okay, because it's important to know,
Right.
And especially as a priest, right?
Yeah.
But even Pope Francis would say that it's important to learn to know how to speak to the hearts of the young, know how to treasure the very rich heritage of the Latin tradition, to educate those in the path of life. So Latin important. It's the official language of the church. Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah?
Because I
Still.
have a theology degree.
Ting. So a lot of people are surprised to learn that, actually. In fact, there is a Latin scholar, Jeff, in Rome, whose job is to kind of come up with the new words that we might need here in 2019. So people are saying, yeah, Latin's a dead language. I mean, maybe they say it that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
But for those who say Latin is a dead language, it's very much alive because Mother Church has taken it and she continues to use it in all of her official documents and her liturgy. And then anytime kind of a new word comes up, like computer, there is a Latin scholar that works for the Vatican, at the Vatican, who declines all these words
That's so cool.
and inserts them into linguistic use.
Nice.
Better than in the German, they just do der Computer.
Yeah, that's right. They just kind of
That's
use the
cheating.
American thing. And I think in Latin there's some of that too. But one of the beautiful things about the language is that if you have a scholar who knows the roots of words and
Right.
where these things come from,
Yeah.
they might be able to come up with a word that is perhaps, that doesn't sound like computer,
Right.
but says what a computer does or something
Yeah.
like that. So you get a sense of the root.
Yeah. So this is like the church's equivalent to nail polish namers.
Oh.
Kind of.
Yes.
Because yours has a weird name, your nail
Yes.
polish.
Girls
That's
Gone
right.
Plaid.
We are talking about that,
Yes.
folks, on the
well,
Catholic Underground.
but how fun? Like, this is a little bit more sophisticated. But how cool is that to be able to come up with, or to come up with, invent words
Yeah.
that aren't original to the language, but are necessary for the church to be up with the times.
Yeah.
You know.
That's true. And so say you want to learn the Latin language. Well, there is an app for that. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Duolingo.
Yeah.
Duolingo is one of several different types of Latin language apps. And they just added a classical Latin course.
Very cool.
And so we may be able to show it to you on the video monitors if you're watching us. We have to switch over to the Apple TV source on our video switcher. It's one of the super sources there at Apple
Wow.
TV, and so if you, it's not going to go on that monitor. Anyway, so sorry, this is the new thing we're trying out. So anyway, so it's a language learning tool, just like you might have for any of the languages.
Yeah.
And they have a full-on Latin course, which is
Very
really
cool.
really neat. And
Yeah.
so it takes you through. Right now, I'm in intro and greetings and where things are and it takes you through the plurals. The only my only critique of it, my only critique would be that it uses classical pronunciation. Yeah, and I know this is one of Olivia's critiques as well.
I don't mind the classical pronunciation. I know that it's not like as roll off the tonguey as the ecclesiastical pronunciation.
Yeah.
However, it is a classical pronunciation. It's important.
Okay. Anyway, so ecclesiastical Latin is pronounced a little differently, but you can go through these little lessons, and it works just like any other lesson. You go through it, and it's got you get little experience points, so you feel like you're leveling up, you know. And also, let's see. So these olives are in Rome, and then you have 3 options. Romani habitant he olive, habitant Rome he olive, and he olive Rome sunt. And so you pick the one that you think that it probably is. And let's see, these olives are in Rome. Because I don't... And I'm right. Oh, good. Okay. So, yeah. And so you go through these, and the idea is that you level up how the Latin language works in your brain.
Nice.
So there you go. And we'll put in the show notes what that is. So
much less violent than the Latin that I learned. Because when you learn it, and like when you learn it from a textbook, literally all the words that you learn are like how to kill, how to die, like because you're like following a family like through classical.
Like through
Rome.
A day in the life.
Yeah, so you like follow a family, but then there's just like lots of death. And so like one of our jokes in high school, because I took Latin all through high school, was like one of our jokes is that we never learned how to say hi or thank you, but we knew like 12 different ways to like say that someone had died.
Oh, I see.
Wow.
Yeah. Which reminds me, of
much
course,
nicer. Olives.
You know, of the old adage, Jeff. Latin is a language as dead can be. First it killed the Romans, now it's killing me. That is actually not true, thanks to the church keeping it alive.
Well, in honor of that, a little rim shot for you there, Father.
All right, yeah, there you go. All right, so if you find yourself in need of wanting to learn Latin or any of the languages, Duolingo has all of those. All right, so I have to explain that this is kind of a shortened segment because we want to let Kathleen have the opportunity to talk about something that's important to her.
Catholic men.
And that's a football player, right? So,
and he plays football.
And he's pointing at you.
Oh,
see?
Look at him.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, okay. Yes, absolutely.
So who is this guy?
This guy is the quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers. His name is Phillip Rivers. Now, 2 weeks ago, from the live version of this show, 2 weeks ago, when he, or maybe not 2 weeks ago. Anyway.
A little while back.
Yeah, a little while back. When he took the field to face the Detroit Lions, it might have been last weekend, on their home turf, he spotted some very friendly faces on the sidelines. They happened to be several Dominican sisters. And if you're watching, the Dominican Sisters of Mary, and if you're watching the video feed, it's so cute.
He runs up.
Because he runs up and he says hello, and then he wants to take a picture with them. Absolutely. Now, they're based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they were super excited to see him come over just before kickoff. Now, Rivers is a devout Catholic. He's an old friend of the order, so he knows the Dominicans for sure, which was founded in 1997 by 4 sisters whose mission was to establish a new religious community that combined their Dominican monastic heritage with their commitment to the new evangelization. So how cool is that the old and the new come together in this beautiful, beautiful order. Now, he is married to his wife, Tiffany, and they have supported the community since 2012. And in 2015, the sisters actually awarded him the 2015 Medal of St. Dominic.
No.
Yeah,
Wow.
so they were recognizing his life of service and faith, highlighting the seriousness which he sees himself as a role model. And he really has. He's been very outspoken about his faith. In fact, he and his wife welcomed their 9th child in March of 2019.
Wow.
And I remember there was an interview with him where I think the reporter asked some ridiculous question like you know, are you guys are gonna stop having babies now? And he was like, no.
That's not how this works.
Yeah. Talk to my wife, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just a beautiful witness to marriage, to family. He attends mass before every game. He has received an honorary degree from the Catholic University of America in 2014. Wow. I want to go there. I wanted to so bad. I still kind of do.
Yeah,
Kathleen,
I wanted
young.
to go there too.
Yeah. I didn't. I was fine with where I was. I don't know. Yeah. So there is a Latin connection to Mr. Rivers there.
Yeah.
So there's a very famous phrase that actually he wears on his practice T-shirt.
Yeah.
Nunc cepi. Yeah. Nunc cepi.
Oh,
right?
No.
Yeah.
There you go.
Now. Nunc.
now.
Yeah. Now cepi. Like incipit, huh? Like to begin. Now I begin.
Ah.
And that's a quote from Saint Josemaria Escrivá. Whenever my strength fails me, with God's help, I get up and I begin again. Just like Saint Josemaria says, Nunc cepi. Now I begin. Basically, get up and go and get it done. You know.
Excellent.
And so he makes a big deal about the fact that actually helps him in practice. That Latin phrase from the history of the saints.
Mm-hmm. When he received his degree, he told those people who were assembled that his priorities were faith, family, and football in that order. Mm-hmm. Faith, family, and football. Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful thing. Now, his visit with his sisters unfortunately did not help him beat the Lions, who won 13-10. But it certainly is a phenomenal win in our book because it's the cutest. It's the cutest video I've ever seen in my life.
It is the cutest.
It is, right? And so in 2016, the sisters actually made a trip to the Charger training camp. How cool! I mean, just how cool is that? And we see that down here in New Orleans with the presence of religious at the Saints games, both real and non-real. But the Archbishop goes. There are many priests. There are Dominican sisters who go to the games, and it's a really cool thing to see that's a part of. That's important to him. Yeah. That he would see those people. And I'm sure there's a million people who want to say hello before a game. Yeah. But he saw them and he sought them out. And their little faces are so cute because they're like, he's coming over.
Yeah. To see a nun just lobbing a football at practice too. It's really quite something.
Yeah.
But it's really a beautiful thing because it's important, I think, for us to see people who are practicing their faith who are in what we would consider kind of professional environments. Right. You know, oftentimes we tend to think that if somebody goes pro, then immediately they sell out, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case. And in fact, as Nunc cepi says, on Now I Begin, there's the notion that when I do have some form of notoriety, even then, all the more I have to live as a disciple of Jesus Christ because the camera's always on me, because I'm always in the spotlight whether I want it or not. Right. And so how cool it is to see somebody like Philip Rivers. So Philip, you get our CU hats off today for being a good Catholic and supporting a good order of religious sisters. Mm-hmm. The sisters, Dominican Sisters of Mary in Ann Arbor, are I believe the kids would say hardcore still. I don't know. If they,
I think so.
I don't know what they would say.
Yeah, and you definitely get a check.
I'm very old now.
That's okay. It's okay. And you definitely get a check in our book until you play the Saints, and then complete annihilation.
Well, because you have the Saints, which are kind of a communion of players. Yeah. And you have him. So I don't know how many other Catholics are on the team there for the LA Chargers.
Oh yeah. Well, it doesn't matter.
Who can say? I know I can't.
Because the Saints are going to win.
Yeah. Where is my buddy Clayton in the chat room? Who was one of my seminary buddies who married and knows every sports statistic. Like he is a Gray's Sports Almanac from Back to the Future Part 2 in his head. Wow. I don't know if he knows future games. Maybe I should get closer to my friend Clayton if that's the case. Yeah, could do some good work for Catholic radio. Anyway, so good job there. Philip Rivers, the LA Chargers, Catholic and loving it. Well, you know, something that we love is, well, this show that we do. Yeah. We are the Catholic Underground. Alrighty, you are listening to and watching and experiencing in general the Catholic Underground. We're online at catholicunderground.tv. I'm Father Chris, joined by Kathleen Lee, by Olivia Gulino, by the inimitable also Jeff Blackwell up in space, and Ed, who is just rocking and rolling on the video feed. He's getting all creative over there, even despite my technology not working here on my phone. We figured out a way for the phone to hook up to our video stuff.
Yeah, which is super
cool. And it decided that it didn't want to do so on cue. But these things happen. Our picks of the week are coming up, but first, we want to spend a little bit of time talking about one of several towns in Texas that
Texas
are really doing some beautiful pro-life things.
Exactly. Yeah. Omaha, Texas. Not to be confused with Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha, Texas. In Omaha, Texas on September 9th, the city of Omaha unanimously passed an ordinance outlawing abortion within city limits, right? Making Omaha the second city in the nation to do so, behind another Texas city, Waskom.
That's a neat name for a town.
Waskom.
So all of you Catholics in Waskom, hi, I guess.
Good to see you.
We should say hello.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then shortly after Omaha, the city of Naples.
Yep. Also Texas.
Also in Texas.
Okay. All right.
Quickly followed suit the same day with a 5-1 vote. What? It says this, the ordinance reads, quote, to protect the health and welfare of all residents within the city of Omaha, including the unborn, and women, the city council has found it necessary to outlaw human abortion within the city limits.
Interesting.
Y'all, when we talk about like pro-life versus pro-choice and how come abortion is made legal, how can it be legal? It's all about the wording, right? If we don't call something a human being, then it's so much easier to dismiss it or to get rid of it, or, it's cities like this that are standing up and saying, this is a citizen, this unborn child is a citizen of our city, and we want to protect all of our citizens.
And that's really quite something, a preborn citizen, right?
Right.
It doesn't yet have the right to vote, but has the right of human dignity. And that's the most fundamental and the most basic.
Yeah. The text also states that unborn babies, quote, are the most innocent among us and deserve equal protection under the law as any other member of our American posterity as defined by the United States Constitution. Also asserting, quote, there is no language anywhere in the Constitution that even remotely suggests that abortion is a constitutional right. These are strong words.
They are.
And it's incredible to see this in our legislation. And we have, in Louisiana, we're very pro-life. But it's so beautiful to be able to see it in other places as well, especially a state as large as Texas.
Yeah, and to recognize that this is not just as kind of the abortion industry, and it is an industry, would have us believe that these are small pockets of quote unquote resistance to the pro-choice movement, but rather this is an embracing of a value, really of a virtue for life that is not just a pocket, right? It's an entire town. And what was really interesting is that it's also kind of a movement forward for women too, because this is something that dignifies women as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, speaking of women, in Waskom, the first city, they got a little grief because the law in
Naples.
Waskom was passed by an all-male city council. And so, of course, they claimed they were curtailing the reproductive freedom of a demographic that didn't have a seat at the table. And so the Omaha City Council was majority female.
Wow.
And in fact, Naples councilwoman Sally Buford, who led the initiative in all three cities, said, I hate abortion, and I don't want to see an abortion clinic in our city. What? Then the Naples mayor pro tem, Jacob Wilson, actually wrote on Facebook that he was truly proud to be the one to make the motion to pass this bill. Y'all, this is incredible. Yeah. It's just incredible to see people actually, politicians actually coming through with what they believe in. Yeah. You want to talk about Phillip Rivers and taking a platform on the football field. We are seeing a lot of politicians really stand up for life, and it's an interesting thing to see.
And it's a beautiful thing to see too, because if we do not stand up for the most vulnerable in our society, then we might as well phone it in for everybody in our society. And that's what I think we fail to recognize, is that abortion, and I say this from the pulpit when I speak about it, the abortion is not a political issue. It's a life issue. It's a moral issue that has been made into a political football. And if you can just kind of play catch with this political issue, then it separates the human person that's the object of this into kind of a concept, and a concept can be melded and meshed and moved around.
Yeah.
But a person is you have to stare into those eyes, into the unborn eyes of a child, and say, I have to reckon with whether this is right or whether this is wrong.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's more comfortable to contend with these things in that political realm because, like you were saying, like it's something that we construct, right? Like any society, any political system is like the invention of human hands. Yeah. So, of course, like it's much more comfortable to drag those things, those moral issues into the political sphere because then that's where we can manipulate them. That's where theory kind of reigns.
Right.
And if everything's on like an equal playing field and you just have this array of options of
big
theories,
laboratory.
Then I mean it's much easier to go into a kind of deus ex machina kind of mindset, and then we become God. But it's also like where we're more comfortable, right? Things are much more comfortable when it's just a theory.
And as I was talking to somebody the other day about what happens whenever we try to become God, we can't create in and of our own power. We don't have the power to create out of nothing. We can cooperate with creation, right? We can make beautiful things out of the things that God has given us. Right. But if we try to take the place of God, the only way that we can mimic creation is by destruction. You see, that's the weird inverse of how our humanity becomes flanged without God, is we think that in order to create, we then have to be able to choose how to destroy. And so you can't have these sorts of discussions without saying, well, what's higher than me? What is higher than me? And that also involves getting words right. We were talking about that at the beginning of the show, how it's not just an easy thing to determine what Latin word is going to represent something in a papal document. Right. And one of the things that happened for these city ordinances is, as you said, they took the time to define what a human person is and how that fits into the law, and then, of course, what an abortion is, too. They made sure that they define their terms.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they go on to say, define surgical or chemical abortion as the purposeful and intentional ending of a human life, right? And that's important because we're talking about a human life, and that has been up for debate in all of this, hoopla. And the whole thing, that's the debate.
All these court cases,
right,
what is a human?
What is a human life? Right? And classifying it as murder with malice aforethought.
Murder with malice aforethought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, rulings or opinions from the Supreme Court that purport to establish or enforce a constitutional right to abort an unborn child are declared to be unconstitutional. Usurpations of judicial power. Yes, according to this ordinance. And now the near identical Naples and Omaha ordinances are going to be, from what I understand, they're going to be very much like the trigger laws here in Louisiana. That they won't be enforced unless and until the Supreme Court overrules Roe versus Wade.
I see. So, but they're on the books to go into effect.
Yeah, and so much like the ones that are that are trigger laws here in Louisiana, as soon as that goes into effect, there is no argument. There is no
It's done.
It's just done, and it makes it very easy for states to who are pro-life to just be pro-life.
That's right, and I tell you, In your family, when you choose life and you choose not to contracept, more life comes forth, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you choose life in your family, you begin to see sprigs of new life that blossom in ways that are far more just than biological, right? That are spiritual. Yeah. And imagine when a township and a city and a larger city and a metropolis and a state and a country begin to think in this new way. That really is quite old. It's as old as the book of Genesis. Right. When we begin to look at God as the author of life and say, how can I plug into what you were doing, O Lord? Right. We can't stop the life that will come forth and the spiritual renewal that will take place in us and in our country and society.
Yeah. And we talk about this all the time at the clinic is, are we ready? Are we truly ready for an abortion-free Louisiana? What does that mean for us?
Yeah.
Our doors are open Monday through Friday
at the Women's New Life Clinic,
right? But can you imagine where if Roe v. Wade is overturned, how are we going to help these women?
Yeah.
Because there's still going to be women who are finding themselves in unplanned crisis pregnancies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so are we ready? And we really have to look at that as a pro-life, as a church community, as a pro-life, civil community. Yeah. Are we ready to provide, and we can pass laws all day long, which is great. But if we don't, find resources for these women, have, sexual education that, talks about abstinence and
what procreation
chastity,
is rather than just reproduction.
And what happened? Yeah, there was I heard she was part of Abby Johnson's, and then there were none. And so she was a former Planned Parenthood worker. Mm-hmm. And she was sent in to teach the kids about sexual education. And she was shocked because she was going into like 7th and 8th grade. Yeah. And she said, has anybody ever told you guys that you don't have to have sex? Mm. And they were like, what? Nobody has ever told us that. Mm-hmm. We just assume that these kids are gonna, are gonna have sex, so we might as well, help them.
Right.
And it's like,
or force them.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, can we think about that idea, like this idea of chastity and abstinence and what that means for people?
And honestly, I guess I come from a different generation. I never would have considered from the other, I never would have thought about that. Yeah. That really is something. It's kind of an inversion of the gift, right?
Mm-hmm. And I spoke to a doctor on a panel one time, and he said, he's a little bit older, probably in his 70s, and he said, abortion wasn't a thing in my time because premarital or extramarital sex wasn't a thing. Uh-huh. The way that we dated was very chaste and very intentional. And that's not the case now. And so we can't always look at, abortion as the issue. We have to look at its deep roots. Mm-hmm. And are we ready to uproot that and to be there for women in a very real way when there's no quote unquote alternative.
And when looking at things like this are important to begin to kind of build those kind of building blocks for seeing a culture of life and realizing it. So kudos to you, Texas. We're giving a lot of CU hats off for this, but how beautiful that is, and what could be going on in your township to support life. We could ask that question, but first we have to take a break. We're at the Catholic Underground. Stay right there. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary. Welcome back to the Catholic Underground. I am Father Chris Decker, joined by Kathleen Lee, Olivia Gulino, Jeff Blackwell, and Ed Ball over in the ball pit. And our picks of the week are indeed coming up, but we have to talk about a new saint. Well, by the time you will have seen this, if you're not watching us live, he will be a new saint. Yeah. And that is Saint John Henry Newman.
Yes, I'm so excited.
It's really something, because if you look at the panoply of his writing, right? I'm told that it's not good to use those words, panoply.
Panoply?
If you look at all of his writing, then you will see that on the one hand, he is incredibly quote unquote conservative in the way that he comes at theology. Mm-hmm. But then if you read other of his writings, he's incredibly progressive. Mm-hmm. And yet these two things can exist side by side, because as long as there is no license, you can actually see how allowing what the Lord allows in his church and disallowing what the Lord does not allow make for a well-rounded kind of meandering through theology. Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about John Henry Newman, and especially when he talks about moral concepts like conscience.
Yeah, and that's particularly on the issue of conscience that he tends to like kick up a lot of dust. Mm-hmm. People, if they don't like Newman, it's because of that. And that was one of those things where like when I was first introduced to Newman, I really respected him. I loved the way that he wrote. I loved that he was really honest about how he came to know certain things, and that a lot of his writing is just kind of like self-exploration. Like, well, I want to understand this better, so I'm going to write about it. I'm going to research about it and find my way to a conclusion. He's very like authentic and open about like, I just want to end up somewhere true.
Which is really kind of the real work of an academic.
Yeah, exactly.
But also somebody who has a deep spiritual sense, right?
Exactly, yeah. And understanding that like he will end up somewhere true and that it won't destroy where he's at right now. And so I always appreciated that about him. And then I would meet certain people who would just, kind of roll their eyes like, oh yeah, Newman. And I would be really confused about that. But like, I thought he was cool. Like I liked him. Like, is that not, we're not doing that? Like, and so that's been one of those things that I've had to not wrestle with myself, but just like come to realize why people might have those certain thoughts. And I think that it comes from a misunderstanding of those terms that you just use, like conservative and progressive, right? Because those mean very different things to us now.
Especially because of the political realm in which they live.
Exactly.
And then it is from the political realm that we inject them into theological language.
Exactly, where they don't belong.
Church
they
talk.
Really don't belong. And especially not understanding the way that they use certain terms. Like he talks about liberalism, but he's not talking about a political system.
Right.
Right. So if we don't know that, then you read his writings or you have a snippet from something that he wrote, and you're going to think that he's just this staunch kind of, in today's words, like conservative, who is rigid to the point of like not allowing any kind of new life into the
hitting
church.
Everyone with a 2x4.
Yeah, and that's not him at all. So first of all, just to like give some preface on John Henry Newman, he was he lived from 1801 to 1890, so he had a nice long life. But he was a celebrated theologian. He was an Oratorian priest. And about halfway through his life, he converted from Anglicanism to Roman Catholicism. So he didn't spend the majority of his life as a Catholic. Well, I mean, roughly half. But it's something that he had to... He's something that he had to come to, something that he had to discover. And he's the one who said that, by studying history, that's how he found his way into the church.
That's right. He who studies history ceases to be Protestant, I believe, is the quote.
Exactly, yeah. So he will be canonized a week from today on October 13th.
Of 2019.
Of 2019, yes. I'm so excited.
If you're watching us in the archives, it was 2019.
It was 2019. Long, long ago.
That's right. We were so young. Future us. Look at past us. We were so young. Anyway,
how cute we are.
Oh my gosh. This is a trippy experience for me. Future Olivia, is it you? So... like we said, like when this canonization takes place, it's already kind of happening. People are going to start bringing up these conversations again. So it's important to just let's talk about what he really said. And especially because Newman has been many things to many people. He had that conservative outlook on things like divine revelation, humanity's standing before God. But then he also advanced certain ideas like the development of doctrine.
Which is a huge component of church theology.
It really is. And he did a lot of that work. Like the essay that he wrote, it's not an essay, but it's a nice little tome on the development of doctrine. It's crucial to what we understand about development of doctrine and how that happens authentically and how it happens maybe inauthentically, right? He has certain parameters that he put in place or that he posited as, okay, this is how you can know that a doctrine is developing authentically versus not authentically. That's huge. We need that.
That's right. Yeah, you need to know how the teachings of the church are progressing along the ideals of Jesus Christ through the work of the Holy Spirit in the church today.
Yeah.
And then how they're maybe being co-opted or are not.
Exactly, yeah. And so he was very, I guess, progressive, if you want to say, about putting that forward. But then he's also had advanced ideas about like the responsibility of the hierarchy of the church to consult the faithful, right, the sensus fidei. And that both of those forays into those ideas went beyond the standard ways that Catholic theologians had thought at the time and really even still think today, some of them.
So in a sense, he brought some of the patrimony of what had been learned in Anglicanism and allowed that to kind of stew, if you will, in his theological boiler as he was beginning to discover the sources of his Catholic conversion.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty late in his life, he offered his view on a lot of these different things behind a lot of his projects in something called the Biglietto speech, which he delivered in 1879 upon receiving word that he had been named a cardinal.
Oh, yeah.
So I really recommend you read that speech. But in it, he, first of all, confesses his own inadequacies.
As
right?
many saints do, right?
He's the first to tell you, like, I ain't perfect. And he says over the course of many years that he made many mistakes and that his work lacked that high perfection which belongs to the writings of the saints, right? He's very, very humble. But despite these shortcomings, there was, he asserts, an underlying continuity to his efforts, right? A thread running through all of them, one in which he took pride. So he says, I rejoice to say, to one great mischief I have from the first opposed myself. For 30, 40, 50 years I have resisted to the best of my powers the spirit of liberalism in religion. Liberalism in religion, all one phrase. Never did Holy Church need champions against it more sorely than now, when, alas, it is an error overspreading as a snare the whole earth.
And that was in 1879.
1879, yeah. So a little bit prophetic there. So we'll talk about that in just a second, what he meant by liberalism in religion. But in response to that, those temptations towards that kind of thoughts on religion, he articulated this view of conscience as a natural mode of hearing God's voice. And really, I think what he's doing is just articulating what the church had always intended to mean by conscience, but had kind of started to muddy. Like conscience, even now, conscience is kind of like that. We think of it as like that Jiminy Cricket voice, or like the kind of referee that keeps you from like choosing bad things, when really like that's a negative view of conscience. It's not the infleshed, incarnated view of conscience and what it's really supposed to be. He even calls conscience the aboriginal vicar of Christ.
Ooh.
Right?
Wow. So like a first vicar of Jesus, a first minister, if you will, of Jesus is our conscience.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because I mean, think about conscience. It's like the instrumental voice of natural law, right? If natural law is something that's written into our hearts, is woven into our beings, well, then there has to be some kind of communication between our consciousness and that law, right? And so conscience is kind of that bridge that allows us to not only access, but to participate in that natural law in a way that is life-giving, is affirming, makes us more of who we're called to be. So I love that phrase.
Is that why my shoulder angel looks like a little Benedict the 16th?
Oh, mine too. If only. So, and this is really important, especially because we talk a lot in these days about like the primacy of conscience. And I always get nervous when people say that, because I'm like, what do you really mean by that?
That's right. Clarify what you mean by primacy of conscience. Is it conscience, that little voice inside my head with no formation, or is it conscience with an external formation taking place that kind of guides how it's supposed to work?
Yeah, exactly. So Reinhard Hütter, I really love what he says about Newman's understanding of conscience. He says that it's essentially theonomic. Ooh. So theonomy is the divine law, right? So nomos is just like law, theo is God, so the divine law. So his Newman's understanding of conscience has divine law as its foundation. So Hütter says conscience is not simply a human faculty, but is in its root constituted by the eternal law, the divine wisdom communicated to the human intellect, right? There's that communication again. It's upon his theonomic nature and upon it alone that the prerogatives and the supreme authority of conscience are founded, right? So conscience is not founded on my will, right? Conscience, I think
we should probably say that again.
Founded on my will. That's a lot of what we think, right? When we think about follow your conscience, that kind of thing, we just tend to think of like, all right, well, do what your heart tells you, follow your will. But that's not it, right? Conscience is relying on divine wisdom, relying on the divine law of God, and how much we've educated ourselves in that law and been educated by that law.
Right, and it's important to say that the divine law of God comes from outside of us.
Yes.
It is something that God tells us about himself by means of the sacred scriptures and tradition.
Yeah.
And God tells us what he wants us to know about himself and the way that we ought to live, certainly, first of all, in the Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that would be perhaps one of the primary sources, if not the primary source, in which we allow our conscience to be formed.
Yeah, exactly. And so this really dispels, this kind of theonomic framework dispels any notion that his emphasis on conscience could lead to some kind of subjectivist or relativist ethics. Because if conscience just means to follow my will, well, my will is different from Kathleen's will, is different from Father Chris's will.
That's for sure.
Right? So then we have three different ethics, and that's just sitting at this table. So we're going to get into issues, especially when we go out into the world, and our ethics look completely different from from other people because our wills are not aligned at all with other people.
And if it's fisticuffs, Kathleen will win.
Yep.
For sure.
I've got many a fist.
Yeah. Jack Johnson and Mike O'Leary coming at you. Yeah. Those are not my fist names, by the way. Keep going.
Okay. Do you name your? I don't
No,
know.
no, I don't.
Okay. So Newman takes precautions against that kind of misconception that this is a foray into subjectivism, false subjectivism, by distinguishing between conscience, rightly understood, and this counterfeit understanding of conscience that worms its way into the popular mindset. This is still how we think about conscience today. It's long lasting as lies go. But this is what he says. He says, conscience has rights because it has duties. But in this age, with a large portion of the public, it is the very right and freedom of conscience to dispense with conscience, to ignore a lawgiver and a judge, to be independent of unseen obligations. He says that conscience is a stern monitor, but in this century, it's been suspended by a counterfeit, which the 18 centuries prior to it never heard of and could not have mistaken for it. And if they had, he says that is the right of self-will.
And this is where you get the notion of a pro-choice situation, saying this is my body.
Yeah, right.
You know, it belongs to me, and I have determined that it is so. Well, there's more here. You know. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, and we all can recognize that too. Like, it's not just in this, like the pro-choice, the pro-life conversations.
No, we battle against this daily ourselves, right?
In
our
almost every
disordered and fallen desires.
Yeah. In every arena, pretty much, of human life, we see this right of self-will come into play.
Especially if there is an entire cheese pizza in my fridge.
Yeah.
Just gonna say. Yeah, with Italian sausage. Might be there right now. I might be undergoing some difficult times in my head right now. Just saying.
In about an hour and a half, we're going to need to check in on
That's right.
Chris.
I'm going to need to read some Newman this evening, I think. Yeah.
So, so this is all nice and good when it's just in theory, right? But we have to eventually drag these things into practicality. Not drag them; they willingly want to go there, right? So, how do we bring conscience into the realm of everyday in a way that can be lived? So, one of the ways that Newman does this is in relation to church authority, which is also something that like I said that, and probably some of you steeled,
Judge authority.
Don't want to talk about that, right? Because it's another one of those tense issues, but it still was in his day too. But because Newman understood conscience as theonomic, right, as based on divine law, he consistently emphasized that the central concern of the moral life is to discern what God requires of us, right? So in those matters of moral inquiry, right, those things that maybe have us fumbling, God doesn't leave us stumbling in the dark. Right, he's given us the church, and the church can speak authoritatively on questions pertaining to divine and natural law.
That's right. In fact, that's religio. That's religion.
Yeah.
The giving of the law.
Right.
Yeah. And that's, I think, where we hear that a lot nowadays, is that Jesus didn't mean to found a religion. He wanted to just kind of found co-people that were awesome to one another. And yet, no, he did want to give us a moral guide that flows directly from his divine mercy, his divine life, and that flows from what he planted in our hearts.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I love about his theology, particularly when it comes to conscience and bringing it into ecclesial authority, is he really brings out the truth of what the church is, of who the church is. Yeah. And this is not something new, like the church, speaking of the church as a mother, right? But he really emphasizes this fact that the individual is not the master over his own life, and I love that he brings that out, because God loves you more than that. Right? The God who doesn't care about you is the God who makes you the master of your own life and says, whatever, just do it.
Oh, and that wouldn't be God, actually. That would be a prince of darkness.
Yeah.
Wanting to lead you deeper into darkness.
Exactly, right? But we're made for family, we're made for relationship. And so the fact that God gives us conscience, it gives us a way to have his law constantly communicated to us. And even then to spur us to conversation with him directly, right? Our conscience, especially if it's troubled, should lead us to prayer, should lead us to conversations with people who can guide us, right? All of these things are supposed to turn our gaze back to God, to further that relationship, right? Because that's what we're made for, that's what we're created for. But if we didn't have that, then we would just be set adrift, and that's a really lonely and isolating and horrible way to live.
And isn't that where our culture finds itself, wanting solitude, but wanting solitude apart from God? Well, solitude apart from God is hell, but solitude in the presence of God is really what heaven is. That's rest, you know. But whenever we don't have anything to kind of guide our moral sensibilities, our conscience, then we really do risk kind of actually finding ourselves actively desiring solitude apart from the will of God.
Right.
And so we begin to live hell now whenever we don't allow our conscience to be formed well and properly.
Yeah. And the desire of the church is not to like be some kind of dictator or tyrant over us when it comes to moral matters, but again, to be that mother, right? To be the one who says like, I don't know that you should do that, right? Here's why. But it's because, you know, conscience and ecclesiastical authority, he says they exist in a dynamic interrelationship, right? So that you really can't have conscience just kind of like fleeing off on its own, because then you do kind of have that tendency towards self-will, right? And then ecclesiastical authority still needs the authentic voice of the people, right? Like I have a conscience given to me by God. I have a way of understanding divine law given to me by God that's important to the church. Yeah. So do you.
That's right. And that's why actual dialogue is important. Right. Not like fake dialogue, but being able to kind of measure my experience of conscience and you measuring your experience of conscience and then joining them together with what has been revealed to us by God. And that's actually, I suppose, where we begin to think about the development of doctrine and things like that, that the sense of the faithful is not to be exercised apart from the church and its teachings and right religion, but in concert with it.
Yeah, exactly. So with all of this kind of in mind, he could see that society was drifting away from this traditional understanding of conscience that had been around for thousands of years, and then its relationship with divinely established authority. Authority is not a bad thing, but he anticipated this coming age of infidelity, and I find all of this really prophetic. Especially because he says that the trials which lie before us are such as would appall and make dizzy even such courageous hearts as St. Athanasius, St. Gregory I, or St. Gregory VII. And they would confess that dark as the prospect of their own day was to them, ours has a darkness different in any kind from any that has been before it.
Wow, that's dire, all right.
Right? But he's saying that because he's skeptical about all of these narratives of uninterrupted progress, right? All these promises that, no, like we can be so much more, we can be so much better if we just like kind of exert our own will. Yeah. That's not God, that's Nietzsche, right?
Right, it's the worst bits of manifest destiny, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he says that, okay, well, there's some positive things. This is when we get into like the liberal tradition, the liberalism that we were talking about earlier. He says that there's much in the liberalistic theory that's good and true, right? Precepts of justice, truthfulness, sobriety, self-command, benevolence, right? These are great. These are natural laws of society that are also have ties into the moral governance of the human soul, right? These are good. But he says that it's because those things are good, that they can kind of lure you in and play an insidious role in society, right? So he says that there was never a device of the enemy, Satan, so cleverly framed and with such promise of success, right? Because it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? And so liberalism that we're talking about when we're talking about Newman's liberalism, again, should not be confused with how we talk about that today, right? We're not talking about political theories. We're talking about liberalism in religion. And he says that this strand of liberalism is the doctrine that there's no positive truth in religion, but that one creed is as good as any other.
Syncretism.
Yes. So revealed religion is not a truth, but it's a sentiment, a taste, right? Not an objective fact, not miraculous, and it's the right of every individual to make it say just what strikes his fancy.
And that's what we hear today when we hear folks say that Jesus didn't intend to found a religion. He just wanted to found good feelings within us, and we follow those good feelings, and that's our conscience. And if we follow those good feelings, we're set. Yeah. And yet we know that those things lie to us, right? Those good feelings lie to us.
Yeah. And, because in reality, our conscience should put us in touch with like the heart of Christ, right? The law has been written into our hearts, right? That's the prophecy of the new covenant that was fulfilled in Christ. So this new law has been written into our hearts, and it's the heart of Christ, right? It's because Christ gives us his own heart. And because we have been ingratiated, we've been grafted onto that heart ourselves by God, right? So
and sometimes we experience the sorrow of that heart, right?
Exactly,
and we experience the frustration of that heart.
Yeah. right? But that should always kind of turn our gaze back to, okay, where am I really? Who do I really exist in, right? If this heart that beats is not my own, right? It's been given to me. And so who has it been given to me by? And so when we reflect on the voice of conscience, it should always lead us to Christ. It should never lead me to myself, or not just, I shouldn't stop there, right? It's my voice of conscience, but it should lead me beyond myself, right? To this transcendent. Because again, like it's that foundation is that theonomic law, that divine law. And so, during Jesus' public ministry, he poses the question to his disciples, right? Who do you say that I am? So it's up to us in our day and age to figure out how we answer that question, right? We're still being asked that question.
As individuals and collectively.
Yeah, and it's our duty, right? A conscience has rights, but it also has duties. It's our duty to live with our guided by the voice of conscience, right? Submitted to proper authorities, right? Ask for help, right? We all need help, but we ask for help from the church because the church loves us and wants to be a mother to us. Yeah. And then we go out into the world and we can see with clear eyes that religion is not a taste, it's not a fancy, but it's something that's been given to us for our good.
That's right, and it's something that we can begin that allows us to begin to experience eternal life now, which is the fullness of satisfied desire. Yeah. We can begin to experience that by right worship, by right practice, and by rightly ordering our desires to what God's divine love tells us about himself. All right, well, if you've stuck with us this far, we have a treat for you. It's that part of the show that we like to call
the CU Pick of the Week.
All right, our first pick of the week, Kathleen, this is not normally you. You brought gadgetry.
I did.
Kathleen brought gadgetry to the show.
I got to set it up.
And not just any gadget. Jeff is like, what is that?
Jeff,
he's looking up on the satellite there.
So much.
Yeah.
Okay, this...
She's breaking gadgetry as she's talking about gadgetry here. Yeah. Okay. She knocked the microphone over there, folks.
This is the DJI phone camera gimbal by Osmo Mobile.
Ooh, that's a lot of words.
Yeah, okay, so what happens is you put your phone in here.
So there's like a little clamp.
Right, yeah. So you have to, adjust it.
Right.
Stick your phone in.
Yeah.
Wait for it.
Yeah, waiting for it.
And you tighten it back up. And then...
It looks like a little monopod you hold with your hand.
Oh man, what's going on? And then watch what happens.
Is it powered? Is that how this works?
It swivels into action. And then you put on your camera and there it is. You just
you can walk with it and it's got a gimbal on it, like a joystick. Like a little, right?
Oh yeah, so you can
so that you can keep the camera steady. Right.
Watch out, people.
It mechanically keeps the camera steady.
You never know what's gonna happen.
Those things used to be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I know. It was I think it was like $60 or something.
What?
Come on.
Used, yeah.
In the words of
I want two.
Yeah.
I'm about to get my next.
In the words of some hobbits, I'm getting one.
When my next paycheck, I'm getting the boom mic that comes with it.
The boom mic.
You go ahead.
Oh yeah, because I gotta look cool. I mean, let's be honest.
I sound cool.
And sound cool.
Right.
The world needs Kathleen to have this.
I think that's great. That's awesome.
Right now, the only thing that I video is Chunk because he's the only subject that I have.
Oh, your dog.
Yes.
And when there's natural disasters, can't forget those.
Yes.
Those are some of my favorite things on the planet.
When there are impending natural disasters, Kathleen's alter ego takes to social media, and I can only imagine how much more it's going to be with this.
That is super cool.
That's a pretty cool pick of the week.
Yeah.
Olivia, what you got?
My pick of the week is this book called These Are the Moments by Jenny Bravo.
She's so cool.
Yeah, and she's local to Louisiana, right?
Really?
Yeah. So I did this activity with my students a few weeks ago where they had to pick their favorite books.
Oh my.
And as you might suspect, there were lots of romance options in there.
Yes.
I see.
And I was kind of horrified at the prospects, and not because they're reading things that are inappropriate, just because it's okay, you have good desires, but why would you want to read that?
Yeah.
So this book is written. She's Catholic, right? But it's written from a young adult perspective, right? It's a kind of teen fiction, teen romance. But even in the first, I haven't gotten too far into it, but even in the first couple of chapters, it talks about how she meets her friends who kind of follow her through life. The main character does on the bus to a Catholic charismatic renewal retreat. And so she's kind of not poking fun at typical Catholic tropes, but also bringing them into how this is just part of normal life. And that was actually one of the most refreshing things, is to read something where like they bring up something Catholic and they don't immediately like spike it down.
Oh, that's kind of Walker Percy-esque. Where this is life being lived.
And she's got a really like cool writing style. Again, I haven't gotten too far into it, but it's become highly recommended. So these are the moments.
Very cool, by Jenny Bravo. We'll put that in the show notes for sure. Up on the satellite, Jeff, you got to have a pick, don't you?
Also in the show notes, This is brand new. I hold in my hands a new 6-song EP from the group called His Own, titled "Oh, My Soul Awake." These 3 women who are Catholic worship and praise leaders combine their voice, songwriting, musical talents. Cara Klein-Oob, Christine Simpson, no kin to Jessica, and Maria Spears, no kin to Brittany.
Good.
These are just brilliant women, and their voices combined, their harmonies are great. It just sounds so rich. Recorded, also Sarah Kroger helped write some of the music on here too. Cool. Yeah, recorded at Paper Castle Records in Nashville. It's excellent. BeHisOwn.com is where you can find out more.
Very cool. Yeah, well, that link will certainly be in the show notes. My pick of the week is fresh in its envelope. I just don't want it to bend. This is the latest in Philip Kozlowski's Kickstarter. Yeah, you recognize Philip because a lot of the articles he writes for Alatea we cover here on Catholic Underground. But he's also a fantastic writer in his own right, and he has joined with several illustrators to now tell the story of the mission of Joan of Arc. Nice. And it's a very, very well done graphic novel. Actually, I guess it's a comic book, but it is also a graphic novel, I would imagine, right? It's all in the writing. And so that's my pick of the week, The Mission of Joan of Arc. We'll make sure that we put the link to where you can find out information about it and read more about it, because one of the things that Voyage Comics, which is the label that Philip came up with, beautifully invented, he blogs regularly, especially about kind of comics culture in our modern religious culture and in the Catholic sphere. So The Mission of Joan of Arc is my pick of the week. I'm going to put it back in its protective box.
And leave it there forever.
No, I'm going to read it because the priests are going on retreat this week, and so this is spiritual reading, right?
Yeah.
Life of Joan the Bark.
He'll transfer it to
John the Bark.
Joan of Arc.
Yeah, that's pretty. By the way, the printing is exceptional. The quality is
fantastic.
Yeah, for those who.
That's really kind of one of the pluses of kickstarted things is that if you kind of go up to the bar of what they're asking for, they usually choose a pretty good printer and print process, and the artwork is beautiful. The writing's
yes,
very
it
good.
is, man. It is
so
gorgeous.
Yeah, that's my pick of the week. Jeff, we are always so grateful to those of you who pick us day in and week out.
With my hand over my heart. Yes, this week, the Catholic Underground is possible because of people just like you. Join the growing number of undergrounders at CatholicUnderground.com/donate. Also, an important way to support us is to like us, heart us, star us, and share us on your social media platform of choice. And if you really like our podcast, pop on by iTunes and leave us a review and click the stars, if you will, please.
That's right. It doesn't really move us up in the rankings, but it helps other people know what you like or don't like about our program there in iTunes. And I think you can do the same thing on Spotify. Our panelists have been Kathleen Lee, the benefactress. She's at klee626 on Instagram. Thank you, Kathleen.
Anytime.
Olivia Gulino is at the.real.omg on all the social media. Thanks, Olivia.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Yep, our technical director is Jeff Blackwell. He's at Jeff Blackwell us on Instagram and Twitter at jeffblackwell.us, where you can find out about his voiceover talents if you might need him for something like that. Thanks, Jeff.
It's a privilege, Father.
Also, our research assistant, the leader of the crew in the lab, is Jim Hayes and his lovely wife and children. We're waiting for him to come back and visit. Yeah, we're in Hayes family withdrawal, huh? Our video and our graphics director for this episode is Ed Ball, and you know me. I'm Father Chris Decker. You can follow me on Instagram at Digital Catholic. I know I promised you Inktober stuff. Haven't done it yet. I got to catch up.
Come on, man.
I got knee-deep in Worktober. We hope that we've helped you cut through the noise and find that still small voice. We are the Catholic Underground. We are Faith gone digital. We will see you next time.
From the Catholic Underground.